Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2, quick match gameplay. This time around we are going to be doing a bit of live battles. So, let's see, we are going up against the Vampire Count, and I think we'll try out some Beastmen. I haven't really done the Beastmen in a while, not Beastmen proper I guess in a while. Definitely not against Vampire Counts. We'll bring some Minotaurs with great weapons. I think they're kind of going to be needed. We do definitely need something to beat up on the enemy backline. We'll bring some Vestigores. And yeah, let's see. I'm not entirely sure if I want to bring... I think I'll bring Morgar. Morgar's just solid. He's survivable, and that's really what matters. A Brave Shaman of the Wild, I am tempted to put him on a Razorgore Chariot, but at the same time that's going to mess with his regen. I don't really like the Brave Scream. It's not particularly good. Devolve is very strong. Chariotkin is very strong. I'm tempted to bring either. I definitely want to bring the Mental of Gorok. I'm not going to bring a Cygor. I'm not the biggest fan of that, despite the fact that it's obviously very potent and very meta sort of thing to do right now. I don't think I'm going to do that. Now, we could do... we could bring some Centaurs with great weapons. Obviously, that's kind of the pick of choice right now. But, I'm not entirely sure if I actually will need a backline against the Vampire Counts. Obviously, usually you do, just in case. I guess I will need something in case my opponent decides to bring a Mortis Engine. So perhaps 2 Centaurs with throwing axes, because they don't need to be babysat too much. And some additional frontline support. We could bring some Ungor Spears just to kind of stiffen things up a little bit. And flesh things out a little bit with something here. You know what? Vampire Counts do tend to bring a lot of crappy chaff infantry, so you know what? Let's do the whole theme and bring some Chaos Spawn and see how they party. This is definitely going to be a rather elite build. You can see we're definitely orienting ourselves towards the magic with the Lord of the Wilds here. We do have Mantle of Gorok, and the reason I like that one is because if you cast on a Minotaur with great weapons, they'll basically annihilate anything they get their paws on. And yeah, we'll just kind of see how things go against our opponent here. And yeah. We'll see what our opponent decides to bring. This is obviously a very elite build, and obviously if my opponent goes very spammy, let's say spammy isn't going to help too much. If he has Fate of Buna, it's going to be rough, and it's a very good chance he'll bring that. But I do have a decent front line. I don't really have a back line to have to babysit. Obviously, he can't get zombies on my Centaurs. He could get bats on my Centaurs, but Centaurs aren't terrible in melee. If I keep my Minotaurs in the back line ready to support, should be okay. One of the things, of course, worth keeping in mind is that hounds or direwolves, in the case of Vampire Counts and bats and all those units, do kind of small entities, which makes them a little bit... Which makes them a little bit tough to deal with when they get into your backline, just because anti-large doesn't do well against them, especially not against bats, because they have terribly high melee defense, and anti-large just can't hit. So we'll definitely see how things go. My opponent's build is huge, so he has a very wide front line, most likely. Kind of build like this. Our build is obviously very elite. It could be a blessing or a problem. We will definitely see. We'll put our Centaurs somewhere. I don't actually know if I want to Vanguard them, to be perfectly honest. We'll put these guys into Control Group 2. The Chaos Spawn can actually just go in the heart of things, just go in. And then we'll have Minotaurs camping in the back, and we'll kind of keep them on the ready to charge in. And obviously, as long as they have Bloodgreed up, they're going to be pretty quick. So it should definitely be pretty cool. You'll put these guys in Control Group 3, and they should be pretty potent. Yeah, so that should be, yeah, we'll see. And, I don't know if this is a particularly great... Once again, against Fate of Buna, it's definitely going to be rough, just because the Vestigores will get annihilated, and with that, we'll go with the rest of the army, basically. But against a lot of other things, the Chaos Spawn will do okay. They will apply poison to hopefully about... Well, we might move them a little bit off-center, just so they support 2 units of Vestigores, hopefully with their poison, and that should help the Vestigores just tank through whatever they need to deal with. Normally, I'm not the biggest fan of Chaos Spawn. They're definitely not a great unit by any means. Like, they're really decent. The Minotaurs are obviously pretty good. They're very squishy, which will make, if your Blood Knights plow into you, if they get the charge off on a unit of Minotaurs with great weapons, I don't think that's going to be good for the Minotaurs. The Minotaurs will probably get slaughtered, but despite their fairly high HP pool and high, well, they do have high weapon strength. They do have bonus against large, but they don't have a great melee defense. Oftentimes, I actually bring normal or shielded Minotaurs, even when dealing with large, just because either they're cheaper or the shields will give you a little bit more survivability. It does provide you with a little more armor and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think my opponent's build really allows for Blood Knights. Black Knights. Okay, well those aren't really a threat. And a Vampire. Actually, Vanilla Vampire Lord. That's interesting. With Invocation of Nehek and something else there. Raised Dead probably. So my opponent did bring Cryptars. He does have a Necromancer in here. Once again, Raised Dead. Man. So a very cheap sort of unit. Well, actually, it's very cheap and spammy. So what we're going to do is we are simply going to advance. Fortunately, there's no Mortis Engine as far as I'm able to tell, though obviously there could be something hidden in the woods somewhere, and we got to be ready for that. We're going to push up with our Minotaurs. It's very spam heavy. The thing is that against Beastmen, they only have one armored unit, really, the Bestigor, and of course the Gorbel, but potentially even their armored units, if their morale starts dropping, are susceptible to fear, and so we definitely don't want our Centaurs with great weapons getting a little overzealous there. Gonna go after the there's more than I bargained for. So a lot more than I bargained for. Okay, so my opponent actually is a very tough sort of flanking force here. It's definitely gonna be a little bit of a nuisance, and we'll kind of get these. We'll get these guys into control group 4. We'll give them their own control group, and they'll just be kind of a soaking unit. And Minotaurs will be able to. And as you can see, we're going to be able to start doing some major damage here. The main thing, of course, is to focus on the Black Knights with Lances and Barding, because they are really the main damage. The Black Knights, not the best of anything. And you can see, unfortunately, that I didn't put those guys into skirmish formation, so they actually get caught because they're just dumb. And they're going to take some major losses, but we do manage to disengage. And the front line fight is going to begin shortly. That should be pretty favorable to us. In the meantime, we will be able to engage here in the woods. We're going to plow into these guys and just try to time down. Over here we will get a Mantle of Gorok on these Minotaurs with great weapons. And this should be a total slaughterhouse, honestly, despite what it might look like. And we do want to get a... Oh boy, well, it looks like... Well, maybe not. We'll see. Over here, we will get a big old cast of Devolve. And as you can see, the Minotaurs are just dragging them into the muck. It's just really huge. And you can see with the backing of those, there's some zombies, but honestly, nothing too great. Over here, we will be able to get Morgur to summon some troops behind my opponent. We will be able to cast all that stuff. We will be able to summon those guys, and we'll actually push this guy into melee because we just want him recovering. Over here, you can see the Minotaurs are slaughtering these knights. They get a beautiful kill here on those Black Knights with Lances and Barding. Going to be able to drag all those troops down to the muck, and you can see they're just cleaving through these guys. So really pretty brutal stuff going down. The Chaos Spawn are summoned, but of course I'm not on top of the micro, so definitely a little rough. And they're not great against Graveguard, but they do have okay melee stats, and Graveguard doesn't have such good stats. They're decent. But that's really all it comes down to. Now, unfortunately, I do get rear charged here. And, of course, the Chaos Spawn isn't going to do very much for me in that situation. But we do have our Minotaurs here helping out. The Minotaurs are still just so healthy, honestly. We'll be able to keep kiting this White King. We'll apply some pressure to him. My opponent will get some rear charges into me, which is really unfortunate. But, you know what? It's fine. We'll keep pushing. As long as we keep pushing, we should be okay. Now, the Bestigors... Yeah, the Bestigors will hack through Skeleton Warriors. They'll hack through all those troops. Unfortunately, my opponent is definitely keen on what I'm doing. But he's not going to have... Well, he actually might. I don't know if his... he might still have his annoying... We're still going to keep working on that Viking. It's still going okay. And over here we're going to get a nice little recharge. Unfortunately, our Lord is... We're just not getting a lot of Winds of Magic. I don't know... Beastmen don't have the best of Winds of Magic recovery, honestly. Kind of weak in that department. And of course, as long as the Bestigors here hold, who cares about the Ongar Spears? It's a 300-point unit, not the end of the world if it breaks or routes or whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to push out over here, and we're going to start peppering down the Graveguard from behind. You can see Undeath Resurgent being a nuisance there. Zombies, though, falling apart, which is good. And we can do Bestial Surge here. And unfortunately, just those Winds of Magic are not coming back. Obviously, eventually we'll get that Dagger back up, which will be great. But we can't even get a Mantle of Gorak right now, which I think is only 10, I thought? Oh, it's 11. Wow. Yeah, that's no good. So definitely a little rough. You can see even the Viking is slowly but surely getting chipped away at, and you can see the Bestigors here just plowing through this front line, cutting through the Skeleton Warriors. Once they get into the Graveguard, it's going to be great. And really, I am tempted to get him another Mantle of Gorak off. Yeah, I think we will. We'll put it on these Minotaurs with great weapons, so they can chop through this Minotaur Lord with over here. We definitely need to drag down the lances and barding. Those guys finally fell apart, but honestly, okay, so our Chaos Spawn is still pushing forward. We're still pushing. It looks like we're lagging actually a little bit, which I didn't realize before. You can see these Bastigors are actually finally buckling, which that said, that's actually a huge problem. And I actually didn't get my Mantle of Gorak off for some ungodly reason. Which, we'll see. I'm not entirely sure what the overcast is, so yeah, we're not getting an overcast there. What I think we'll do is we'll just... you know what, we'll get a nice single cast of Devolve, and we're just going to see how well we can do here in this kind of pell-mell. And just drag these, hopefully drag this cavalry down. If we can get rid of the cavalry, clear up the way for our Bestigors, and really just kind of open the path, we should be fine. We're going to pull these Minotaurs with great weapons back. They really shouldn't be in here. They're just wasting their lives for nothing. We'll get over there. I really want these Centaurs in here fighting against bring those Cryptars down. And we're actually bringing, you can see that Viking is just slowly but surely getting chipped away at. He's not that cheap of an investment, honestly. Especially not with that sword. Obviously, we don't have the best of Winds of Magic, but it's not terrible either. It's definitely decent, and we're just slowly but surely chipping away. Our Chaos Spawn is, of course, dying, but they're up to 58 kills. They have been applying that poison debuff, which is great. And honestly, once our Bestigors, if we get our Bestigors back, which we should, they still have 39 models. I'm really not sure why they routed so easily, but I guess they were surrounded. And unfortunately, these guys are not pushing, so Morgr is actually alone in here, because I'm not the brightest individual, and wasn't paying enough attention to him. But you can see things are definitely going okay. You can see our Shaman, as long as he's melee, that knife is actually going to be cooling down. The Jagged Dagger is just cooling down pretty quickly, and he's going to be really pretty solid. Unfortunately, you can see Undeath Resurgent going down, giving these guys that regen. But honestly, against the Minotaurs, even Chaos Spawn, despite not being an optimal sort of unit against a lot of this, it'll be decent enough. The Minotaurs with great weapons kind of chopping down Vampire Lord over there. You can see the over here the Graveguard will eventually just get brought down. We can get the spears into those guys. And once these Bestigors are rallied, yeah, we definitely have an overwhelming presence over there. And you can see the White King over there. Despite being a pain in the rear, is definitely not going to be long for this world. Over here, you can see there's just a bunch of Graveguard. These Cryptors getting dragged into the muck. Obviously, the Minotaurs aren't doing too great. They're definitely taking a bit of a pounding, but they're trying. The Vampire Lord has hit his healing cap. You can see Morgr over here still struggling. He's not the greatest melee lord. He's decent. Is really what it comes down to. Morgr's passable, and he's cheap. That's his main. Honestly, if there's a selling point for Morgr, it's just his cheapness. He doesn't basically cost nothing. We can cast another Jagged Dagger, which, if we can isolate these enemy lords and heroes, we're actually going to be in a really good spot. You can see as the Minotaurs get that surround on him, they're actually hacking this guy down really quickly because his melee defense is only 45. He's large, so he's getting that bonus attack applied to him, and you can see they're hitting for like over 100 on this poor guy, and really he's not having a good day. So if we can get, we can get some damage on that Viking. That's fine. I'm not entirely sure what these guys are doing. They just wandered off. The Chaos Spawn are still in there, still fighting, and that's obviously a nice little thing. It's just that they're unbreakable. Now we could cast some. What I think we're going to do is we're going to cast a... we're going to cast a good old little debuff here, but just as our opponent's army does kind of crumble. One of the nice things, of course, about these casters is that you do have a little perk here. Bestial Surge, which is a nice little vigor bonus for 9 seconds, but it is going to be a close victory, and what was a bit of a grindy battle. Now, it was an interesting build attempt for my opponent. I think it's honestly a bad idea to bring cheaper cavalry against the Beastmen. You don't need Blood Knights. The Blood Knights do have that anti-large bonus, which is why I think at least a unit or two of them is good, but against Beastmen, you don't necessarily need it. Most of their units are so squishy. If you need to bring down a Cygor, just having more cavalry is probably a good idea. If you need to bring down Minotaurs, yeah, Minotaurs will probably chop up a unit of Black Knights with Lances Barding, especially Minotaurs with great weapons, but will it be cost efficient? Probably not. And you can just bring a lot of cav and then swamp your enemies. As you saw, even the Bestigors, they're routed. And had my opponent not been tied down by those Minotaurs, he would have been able to kind of pursue my troops out the field. The front line, of course, causes fear. So the Skeletons will do okay. The Graveguard, of course, didn't have the greatest time of it. They got stuck in a rather bad fight against Bestigors. Really, where I have to criticize my opponent's army on something, anything, I think the main problem here is that he invested way too much in an infantry force in an army that was supposed to be really revolving around cavalry monsters for the damage. And if you're gonna be investing this much in infantry, I think you might as well kind of build just around supporting that infantry more. This is way too much for a anvil. If you just want a vampire count anvil, 4 units of Graveguard is more than adequate to stimmy Beastmen. If you want a meat shield in front, like what my opponent used the Skeleton Warriors for, you might as well just use a pair of zombies. Just bring 2 units of zombies. Bring the Tithe, honestly. It's perfectly adequate if you just want to soak up and charge. Or bring Graveguard with great weapons if you want a more competitive front line. But as it was, this wasn't a particularly competitive front line against higher-end Beastmen troops. Honestly, against lower-end Beastmen troops, Graveguard will be perfectly adequate. Against Bestigors, they'll hold their own for a while. So might as well just bring up 4 Graveguard, and the rest of these points will be better spent on other units. You have more Crypt Horrors. For example, upgrading the Blood Knights could have been decent here. Bringing a Terrorgeist or perhaps Vargulf, something like that. This is about 2,000 points worth of troops invested into these skeletons. That honestly could have been better spent on armor-piercing units or units that would have helped deal with my front line much better. Obviously, lack of Fate of Buna here against the Bestigors was a bit of a pain, but even had my opponent had Fate of Buna, it would have been able to knock down 1 unit of Bestigors, but the rest of my army was still fairly tanky and survivable. As you saw in that slaughterhouse in the center, the Chaos Spawn actually did an okay job at just beating down the enemy kind of core troops. You can see they veteraned up a whole bunch, so they were really slugging it out with those Cryptarge, really slugging it out with that cavalry that got that brutal rear charge on me. They just anchored the line and held their ground, so definitely the Chaos Spawn are decent. So yeah, you can see the Minotaurs doing great, and yeah. So good game to my opponent, definitely was a lot of fun. Definitely, if I was going to make a build recommendations, go get more supporting troops. Get more damage output, because this is a very tanky build, but it really lacks the damage output. So yeah, definitely a great game. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments or criticisms or anything like that, be sure to post them down, and I'll respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.